Hello, my friends, and welcome to this week's podcast episode of BariAftercare. And it is titled Life After Weight Loss by Whatever Means. Now, I want you to know that this episode is nothing like the one I had in my head when I decided to do this topic. It just kind of evolved into its own thing. So I don't know what the heck it's going to be, but you know what? I'm going to tell you a little story that I heard on the Bert Show podcast that I listened to. And Bert is the host, and he's got a son who's a senior in high school, and his son is a hockey player. And he's apparently a pretty good hockey player, but he was putting so much pressure on himself to be a really good hockey player that he wasn't playing all that well. And a lot of his friends were starting to get offers for scholarships for college, and he wasn't. And so he went to his dad and he said, "You know what, Dad? I have come to the conclusion that I am not cut out to get a scholarship to play hockey in college. And so I'm going to give up on so much pressure on myself, and I'm really going to enjoy playing hockey this year." And his dad was so proud of him. He's like, "I love that. I think it's great. I'm proud of you for making that decision and coming to that conclusion on your own, blah, blah, blah." Well, lo and behold, if the kid didn't start playing like you know, like an amazing player, and because he took all that pressure off of himself, and he's having a whole lot of fun. So, you know what? My podcast is fun for me. It is just something that I like to do to hopefully share information about living life the best you can, improving who you are a little bit so that your life is a little bit better. And so I'm not going to put a bunch of pressure on myself. Not that I do too much anyway with the podcast, but this one just created itself. And I think there is some really good information in here, but I'm not sure exactly how it's going to come out. So bear with me. And the purpose of the podcast, I'm chuckling because my good friend Laura Preston, who, if you're a part of BariAftercare, you know her really, really well. Or if you've been in the bariatric community for very long, you know Laura Preston. She's been around for 20 years. She had her surgery 20 years ago, and she's been a huge advocate and has worked in the professional world in bariatrics and is now in school. And she and my daughter Kelsey really run BariAftercare. So they are I have much debt and much gratitude to both of them. But Laura was posting on the page today, the BariAftercare page, and she's like, "I'll be curious to see what this podcast is about." And the title is Life After Weight Loss by Whatever Means. And I thought, I wonder what she's thinking when she hears the title. And again, I could be wrong, but here's what I think Laura heard from the title: weight loss by whatever means. Like, after you lose weight, you have to keep that weight off by whatever means, which is really funny because that's not at all what this topic is supposed to be about, nor is it what the podcast is about. And again, I'm not sure if that's what Laura had in mind, but if that's what you thought when you heard the title, listen in. That's not what this is about, but it does have good information. So here's what the topic is and what this episode is going to be about. There's a lot of ways to lose weight. So in the title, when it says weight loss by whatever means, I mean, however you lose weight, by whatever means you lose weight. There's a lot to understand about life after you lose weight. And here's how this topic came about. Look, Susan Mitchell, Dr. Susan Mitchell, she's a PhD level dietitian who works exclusively or almost exclusively in the bariatric world. And Dr. Susan has an amazing bariatric podcast about nutrition, and it's called Bariatric Surgery Success. And I refer everybody to her podcast. And she has me on fairly regularly as a guest. And we were talking, she sent me an article about a month ago. And the article was in like the Washington Post, I think. And the article was about this couple And the wife in the couple had lost a tremendous amount of weight by taking a GLP-1. And the article was more of an interview by the husband, or from the husband's perspective, about the changes in their relationship. And so she sent me the article and she said, this sounds so much like what we hear from people after they have weight loss surgery, that there are so many changes that take place in relationships after bariatric surgery and after the significant weight loss. So I thought, you know what? No matter how a person loses weight, they need to understand what life after weight loss is going to be like. And there are so many things that people don't take into consideration. So that's what this podcast episode is about. So we're going to talk about, I found some interesting little tidbits on the internet, and I want to share those with you about what the different ways are, what the research is saying about different ways to lose weight. We're also going to talk about how the fact that things that happen after a person loses weight, and I'm not talking about just physically, but that's part of it, but emotionally and relationship wise, there's a lot of things that take place in a person's life after they lose a significant amount of weight that should not be a shock to people. At least if you're working with professionals throughout this process. We're going to talk a little more in depth about that. And then we're going to talk about some common weight loss issues, not weight loss, but post weight loss issues. What are these things that people face after weight loss? And then how you can become more aware, how you can be in the know, what to expect after I lose significant weight loss. And this podcast is filled with episodes very much related to not only the process of losing weight, but it's mostly about life after weight loss. But a lot of people don't know about this. And I created a video. And if you're a member of the BariAftercare online community, you can watch this video because it's archived as part of this program. And it's Mythbusters related to bariatric surgery. But most of those myths, which I'm going to go over in this podcast episode, also pertain to weight loss by whatever means. So let's get started. And let's talk about the different ways to lose weight. And so what I Googled, what are the most popular ways to lose weight 2025? And believe it or not, it didn't say anything about GLP-1s or bariatric surgery. But I don't think the search was specific enough. Anyway, I found this article by healthline.com, and it was the 5 best weight loss programs to try in 2025, according to dietitians. So I'm going to just share with you what those are, not because I hope for you to go on them or anything. I just think it's interesting to hear what people are doing because, there's been all kinds of fad diets over the years, and there's been medical weight loss programs over the years, and there are full liquid programs, and there's all kinds of things. But here's what they're saying online for 2025, according to dietitians. They say the most flexible of the weight loss programs out there is Weight Watchers. So people are still doing Weight Watchers. It offers apparently a lot of flexibility in choices, probably food, right? The best weight loss app, they say, is Noom. You know what I say about Noom? I think I created Noom before Noom was a thing, because my theory and my perspective about weight loss is, of course, you have to change the behaviors. Of course, there's behavior modification. You have to watch what you eat, all the gotta do-ums. I think a lot of weight loss issues are related to emotional and psychological issues. And apparently, Noom was created by a bunch of psychologists. So go Noom. Best weight loss program for meal planning, they say, is Plate Joy, which I have never even heard of. So Plate Joy. Best, okay, here's one that does incorporate the GLP-1 medication. Best with GLP-1 medication support is, again, a program I've never heard of. It's called Calibrate. Calibrate. And then the best weight loss program for diabetes is the Mayo Clinic diet. Now, interestingly, most of the links that I clicked on when I did this Google search brought up the Mediterranean diet as the most popular diet. So that one that was in Healthline, according to dietitians, did not show up on that list. But another website said that in 2025, the popular weight loss methods include the Mediterranean diet, the DASH diet. I'll talk about these very briefly. Flexitarian diet. And they also mention programs like Weight Watchers and Noom. And most of these, they say, emphasize whole foods, balanced nutrition, and here we go, ding, 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 sustainable lifestyle changes. Sustainable lifestyle changes. Hear that carefully because, this will come as no surprise, I hope, to anybody. If you're going to maintain weight loss, regardless of how you do it, you have got to participate in sustainable lifestyle changes, which I call the gotta do-ems. But some of these top-rated weight loss methods of 2025, the Mediterranean, of course, it's whole foods, fruits, veggies, whole grains, healthy fats, consistently ranked high for overall health and weight loss. So there's that. Then there's this DASH diet, which I've never really even heard of. Dietary approaches to stop hypertension. So blood pressure people, this is for us. It's developed by the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. It's fruits, veggies, whole grains, while limiting saturated and trans fats. So not big emphasis on protein, which if you're a bariatric surgery patient, big emphasis on protein, right? Flexitarian diet, never heard of that either. It is also plant-based, and people there's a doctor, what is his name? He used to be out of Houston, but he moved, Garth Davis, and he promotes a big, high-protein plant-based diet. At least he used to, not sure if he still does. Noom is mentioned, as is Weight Watchers. The Noom program focuses on building self-awareness, accountability, and healthy habits through a combination of nutrition education, behavior science, and social support. Ding, ding, ding. That's what BariAftercare is for those of us in the bariatric world. BariAftercare. Weight Watchers. Okay. Other ones are Volumetrics diet, Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Ornish diet, another plant-based. Mind diet. Never heard of that one. So there are some diets. So that's what's going on in 2025. Those are the most popular ones now. Okay. We're not going to focus on any specific diet because we want to establish a healthy lifestyle that works for your life and is within the parameters of what you are encouraged to do according to how you have lost weight. So regardless of your weight loss method, as in the title, life after weight loss by whatever means. The whatever means however you've lost weight. If you had bariatric surgery, then there are some pretty specific guidelines for you. Eat every so many hours, eat protein first, limit the processed foods, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you've lost weight with the GLP, I don't know what the dietitians are sharing with that, or if you're even working with a dietitian or not. But here's the point of this episode. How life changes for people after weight loss should not come as a shock for people, especially, as I said in the intro, if you're working with a professional as you go through this process. So if you're working with a physician, like a bariatrician. What's a bariatrician? A bariatrician is somebody who understands the science of bariatric medicine, which is the science of treating the disease of obesity. So if you're working with a physician who works specifically with the disease of obesity, they need to be telling you can expect these kinds of things after you lose a significant amount of weight. And we'll talk about what these things are in just a minute. If you are working with a primary care physician and you are under their care as you're losing weight, they need to be informing you of some of this information. If you're working with a bariatric surgeon, they need to have built into their program, because physicians are medical professionals. Their emphasis is not the psychology or the dietary stuff, but they should absolutely be recommending you to professionals who work in these specific areas. They should understand that as people lose weight and their health improves and they're doing more things, their lives are going to change drastically. And the first book that I wrote, called, what the heck is the name of it? It's called Eat It Up. That book I wrote because I wanted people to understand that as you lose weight, your life is going to change in every area. So if you haven't read Eat It Up, it is a really good overview of how life changes after weight loss surgery in every area of your life. And you need to tend to and address the changes in all of those areas. But the people you are going to for these weight loss medicines, or for a medically supervised program, or a surgical procedure, need to be making you aware. So who do I hold responsible? I hold us, the professionals, not just the medical ones, but also us allied health professionals, the dietitians, the therapists. We are supposed to be working as a multidisciplinary team. That's a fancy word for we communicate with each other. The physicians and the medical people, the nurse practitioners, the PAs that work in these bariatric programs or these medical weight loss programs, or in the primary care facilities, we need to be communicating with the allied health professionals like myself, a psychologist who works specifically in weight loss, dietitians, and there are dietitians who understand bariatric surgical procedures and those who do not. So whoever is leading up the program needs to refer or have within that program other professionals to deal with the multidisciplinary needs of these professionals. And it ticks me off that programs don't offer these full services. And if you are fortunate enough to go to a program that does count your blessings, I know of several, and I am super grateful for those programs. In my case, is particularly some amazing surgical bariatric programs that offer, either within their program or through referrals to professionals who work with nutrition, exercise, the mental and emotional health issues of the patients, as well as the physical issues. So kudos to those of you who are working in programs who support all of these areas. And dare I say something that my grandparents would have said, shame on you, which is an expression I really hate, but to those programs who don't. We have an ethical responsibility to provide these services for our patients. Enough said. Now, patients, on your end of the situation, you're responsible. Remember how I end most of my podcasts and most of the videos I do? It's your health. Therefore, it's your responsibility this day and every day. It's your responsibility to do some research. And we have the resources online in this day and age about all of the things related to weight loss. Now, maybe you don't even have the first clue or the first notion that you need to look at how do relationships change after surgery. Hopefully, you have somebody in your community, the people you work with, or the people that you know who have gone through weight loss, who say, you know what, this is the thing. You might want to think about this. I don't know. But I do say that the professionals involved have the most responsibility to educate people who are trying to lose weight about the changes. We're going to go into some of those changes in just a minute. When I worked at one of the bariatric programs, that the surgical weight loss programs that I worked at for a very, very long time, I did a presentation to groups that would come in, and it was about the myths related to what you can expect after you have bariatric surgery. Some of these myths apply specifically to bariatric surgical procedures, and some will apply to whatever method you have used to lose weight, whether that's a GLP-1, whether that is a Mediterranean diet, whether it's Weight Watchers, Nooms, any of the ways. There are some myths that you have to understand about the weight loss method itself. So, first of all, the first myth that people often come in with, especially, like I said, this was for people having bariatric surgical procedures, but I'm going to keep the weight off. If I have this surgery, if I take the GLP-1, if I do the Mediterranean diet, I'm going to lose the weight and it's going to stay off. Boom, done. This will take care of it. False. That is not at all true. If you have a surgical weight loss procedure, it's super easy to gain that weight back, my friends. As many of you who are listening to this podcast episode already know, because maybe you have struggled with regain. But if you go into bariatric surgery thinking this is all it takes, you're far off the rocker. And I might say that unfortunately, even though many people understand, regardless of what weight loss method they use, whether they're taking GLP-1s, whether they're having a surgical procedure, whether they're on a diet, a lot of people think this is it. This is the magic bullet. This is the thing that's going to get this weight off and I don't have to worry about it anymore. It's sad and it's not true. So even if you go in with the cognitive or the understanding in your head that, yeah, there's more work to be done. One of the people, Shay, shout out to you, Shay, from the BariAftercare program, who does one of our morning daily takes, was recently sharing that she thought or hoped or believed that the surgery was going to be all it took. And that is the case for, I hope I'm not misrepresenting you, Shay, but I think that's what you said. But I've heard it from hundreds of people who have had weight loss surgery. I really thought that this would be the end. It was my last chance. It was the last hope. I would have the surgery and I wouldn't have to worry about this anymore. That is not the case. Nor is it the case if you go on GLP-1s and you come off that, weight loss, as we're finding out, and the research shows, it's so easy to regain that weight. Maybe not all of it, but some of it for sure. Same with bariatric surgery. Maybe not all of it, but unless you engage in what is required, regardless of how you lose your weight, which is that healthy lifestyle, i.e. the gotta do-ums, you're in trouble if you think the procedure or the diet or the pill is the be-all and end-all. That is a myth. Here's another myth. You won't be hungry. A lot of people who have a surgical weight loss procedure think they're not going to be hungry after they have the procedure. Some are very disappointed to understand and realize that they are hungry almost from the get-go. I have met maybe 2 or 3 people in the last 20 years who have had a surgical weight loss procedure who have never really experienced too much hunger. But the vast majority, once that period known as the honeymoon period, which is like somewhere between the first year and second year after surgery, hunger does start to return. And as you probably already know, many people who have had a surgical weight loss procedure eventually start taking GLP-1s because that hunger and that food noise, that constant thinking about food return, and the GLP-1s will curb that food noise. But hunger does return, not just for people who've had a surgical intervention, but even people who take GLP-1s will report that even though their appetite is greatly decreased, they will still feel hunger. Again, not everybody, but some. And if you're on a diet, you probably do experience hunger. So thinking you won't be hungry is a myth. Third, a lot of people who have a surgical weight loss procedure believe they will not be able to eat sugar or a lot of heavily processed carb heavy foods because it will cause dumping syndrome. Dumping syndrome, I'm not going to explain it biologically, but what I will tell you, if you've experienced it, you know it. People say they feel like they are absolutely dying. They have nausea, they sweat, they are doubled over sometimes. They just have no energy. And it's called the dumping syndrome. And some people have even expressed a desire to get that so that it prevents them from engaging in eating things that are going to cause this. Let me tell you something. The truth of the matter is, science says only about 40% of people will experience the dumping syndrome after a surgical weight loss procedure. So only about half of the people are going to have it to begin with. So it is not, like some people take antabuse, which is a medication that if you drink alcohol, you become violently ill. Some people hope or think that after surgery, if they eat or if they eat sugar or if they eat highly processed heavily carb foods, they're going to dump. That doesn't happen for everybody. That is a myth. So don't count on that if you're opting for a surgical weight loss procedure to keep you from having the dumping syndrome or that you will get the dumping syndrome. And here's the sad reality. A lot of people who get the dumping syndrome, because they are so used to getting a feeling or whatever it is they got from certain foods will eat them anyway and go through with the dumping syndrome because they want that food that badly. Okay, so here's another myth that people think. Again, regardless of how you lose weight, I won't even be able to whatever, eat this or eat that or eat that much. I won't even want to. And pretty much they're talking about portion size. And to some degree, this is a truth. When your stomach size is reduced through a surgical procedure, you cannot physically eat as much food as you once could. It doesn't mean you won't necessarily want to. And you can eat all junk food and no healthy food and regain weight quite easily if that's all you're putting into your belly. That's why the lifestyle is what keeps that weight off, regardless of how you lose that weight. With the GLP, one, you're probably not going to have as much of an appetite, but that doesn't mean you can't physically hold more, or maybe you eat more frequently, or maybe you opt for foods just because. So it's not a guarantee. There is some truth to this one, and yet it's not 100%. All right, this one kills me. And I talked to a woman yesterday, but I have the same conversation with people all the time. There won't be any loose skin. I'm not going to have loose skin because I'm going to do some weight training before, and so that will tighten my skin. Now, the truth about loose skin, and I'm going to talk about it again in just a minute, is that it depends. It depends. So I'm not going to go into this right at the moment. I'm going to go into it in a few minutes, but that is very much a myth in many cases. Again, none of this is across the board and fits for everybody, but understand these myths, because if you go into whether it's a procedure, a surgical weight loss procedure, or the GLP-1s or whatever it is, if you have unrealistic expectations, you are very likely to have disappointment. Because here's a psychological little tidbit for you. Our disappointments are in direct proportion to our expectations. So that can be related to a vacation. You have these huge expectations that this vacation is going to be the most wonderful, whatever. And your expectations are so high and you get there and you're like, this isn't what I expected. And so you're disappointed, or you have these huge expectations for a date, and it's not all you had it cracked up to be in your mind. Or you expect all these things from your friends or your relationship or your partner, and they don't live up to all of your expectations, which leaves you feeling very um, disconcerted, very disappointed. So our expectations are in direct relation to our disappointment. So have realistic expectations. Do your homework, ask the questions from the professionals, talk to other people who have been there, but understand that each person's circumstances and situation and outcome will be different. Here's the biggest myth of all. People say, it won't happen to me. And this is a universal thing, and it's not relegated to weight loss. We think none of the bad things are going to happen to us: car accidents, illnesses, losing people, losing jobs, whatever the case may be, foreclosure on your house, all the things. We think we're exempt from those things. And when it comes to weight loss and life after weight loss and things that happen very frequently and very often, which if you read the book, Eat It Up, you will understand going into your weight loss journey that things do happen after significant weight loss. There's changes in moods. There's changes in self-esteem. There's changes in willingness to stand up for yourself. There's changes in your willingness to confront or set boundaries. There are oftentimes side effects from the medications or the surgery or the weight loss, but it won't happen to me. There is often trouble in paradise, meaning relationships struggle. That could be with your significant other. It could be with a friend group. It could be within your family. It could be with your children. That won't happen to me. There is a thing called transfer addiction. That won't happen to me. Well, guess what, friends? It happens to somebody. And it not only happens to somebody, it happens to a lot of somebodies as they lose weight. So let's not bury our head in the sand, but let's look proactively to the what could happen and let me prepare for that in advance. Now, that's not going to happen very much from your own, generating, finding the information from those things, which is why I hold the professionals more accountable. Professionals, here's one of my next books, and I've actually started it. Weight loss professionals, pull your heads out. Now, that is a fun title to me because some people might think pull your heads out of your arse, which is really what I mean by it. But I will deny that. When the book comes out, I'll say, no, it's just pull your heads out of the clouds. But you and I know that's not what I mean because, or pull your heads out of the sand or wherever you got that head stuck, that you're not seeing the whole picture, or you are not educating your patients well enough about the many, many changes that they are likely to encounter as they lose weight that have maybe something to do with their physical process, but often to do with their emotional and mental health. So let's go into that now. Now, here are some things that if you work with really good providers, whether it's person in the medical field, the nurses, the PAs, the physician, or I already said that, the whatever medical professional you're working with, the doctor, the bariatrician, the surgeon, whoever it is on the medical team, they should be informing you. The dietitian should be informing you. The psychologist should be informing you and referring you to the dietitian and the medical profession. We should all be working together as well as the exercise people because we encounter the people and you are a whole person. You are not just losing weight physically. There are so many changes. So, here are some common post weight loss issues that the professionals should be giving you a heads up about. And if you are a very proactive person, you can start digging into on your own. All right. First of all, there are physical changes That's what we're hoping for one thing, right? There's physical changes. You want to lose that weight. But along with those physical changes, there's changes in your hunger levels. So this is going to spill over into the relationship realm because people aren't necessarily used to you eating this much or you eating this little, and they'll be like, is that all you're going to eat? Or what about, grandma's homemade whatever? And I made you your favorite meal. And so that spills over into the emotional realm. But, there's physical changes in your hunger levels. And I want to talk here about this loose skin thing. It's a bigger deal depending, again, because here's what the science says. The skin's ability to return to its original shape after weight loss depends on a lot of factors, including genetics. Maybe you've got the good genes and, you don't get the wrinkles in your face and you don't get the jowls and your face doesn't completely fall, or your age. So when I talk to people, especially women who are postmenopausal, men, women, either way, if you're over 45, 50 years old, your skin's not going to have as much elasticity as it did when you were younger. And it also depends on how much weight you've lost. It depends on your hormone levels, all of these things. So excess skin is a reality. So when people tell me, I'm not going to have excess skin because I am lifting weights. Well, I think that's great. And I encourage people to do that and to engage in some strength training because through the process of weight loss, be it surgical or GLP-1s, I'm not sure about the other methods, but I do know that in these two methods, at least, people do lose muscle along with fat. We want to hold on to that muscle and lose the fat. So if you're working those muscles and building those muscles through some kind of strength training, you're less likely to lose as much muscle as you are fat. We can tone our muscles, but can we tone our skin? Maybe to a certain extent. I don't know the science on that, but I do know that depending on your age, depending on your genetics, depending on the amount of weight loss, you're likely to have some excess skin. I'm going to tell you my personal story. My average weight was all through high school and college was under 130. I'm 5'4". I've mostly been the same weight my entire life, except when I became very anorexic and I was 89 pounds. And I went all the way up to 100 and almost 80 pounds when I was pregnant. So that big swing in my weight and yes, I was pregnant, but I gained over 50 pounds when I was pregnant with my first pregnancy. I have excess skin because I lost that weight and my skin stretched, and I was a whopping 23 years old. So to some extent, if you've stretched out your skin, you will have loose skin. I was talking to a woman the other day who was sharing that her significant other has expressed some concern about her excess skin. And so, given the fact that she has close to about 200 pounds to lose, she's in her 40s, I said to her, I don't know your genetic makeup. I don't know your hormonal state. I don't know any of that, but I can almost assure you that with that much weight to lose, you are most likely to have some extra skin. Don't think this isn't going to happen to you. And don't think by lifting soup cans or milk jugs or some hand weights that you're going to prevent from having loose skin. Be prepared for it because, again, expectations and disappointments. I just want to point that out, that many people are going to have loose skin. And it's great that this weight loss provides you the ability to participate in more physical activities, whether it's exercise or, doing things for fun, just getting out there and being able to walk better and do the things. This excess skin can sometimes interfere with your ability to exercise. People will say, I've got this skin slapping against my arm or slapping against my leg or slapping against my belly. And that can be difficult. It can cause skin irritation and some skin breakdown. It can also cause stretch marks. So I would encourage you to keep in mind how much weight you're hoping to lose, your age, your genetics, and think about the fact that loose skin is one of the physical things that you may encounter. All right, another physical change with significant weight loss is people feel cold. They feel cold a lot. A lot of times they feel fatigue and they feel cold, or they sometimes have difficulty sleeping after losing weight. I don't know the science behind this. I just know what has been reported and what is in some of the stuff online. So you can ask your physician about the medical things related to these things, but I just want to let you be aware of some of these physical changes. There can also be metabolic changes. Weight loss definitely can affect your metabolism. It can affect your energy levels, and it can, of course, lead to changes in appetite and how much energy expenditure you have. So, working with somebody like Rob DiMedio, who has Busy Bariatrics, he's knowledgeable about these things. He can help you with these things. He understands about these things. So, find somebody who does understand about this, but become prepared. And even if you've already lost your weight, become prepared about these things, become educated. All right, side effects. If you've had surgery, if you've had weight loss surgery or surgical procedure, physical side effects can include, and you should know these things going in because you don't want to be like, nobody told me I'd have nausea or I could have nausea. And of course, you are told, you sign waivers that you understand these could be the side effects. But how many times have I heard patients tell me, well, nobody told me that? Yeah, they did. You signed waivers. You just didn't want to think about it because you thought it won't happen to me. So, surgical, physical complications could be nausea, vomiting, acid reflux, which BT dub, if you're having a gastric sleeve, occurs in about 20% of the people, whether they had acid reflux before or not. And for 20% of the people who either had or developed severe acid reflux after the sleeve, that can lead to a revisional surgery. So just FYI, know that going in. I tell everybody that I do a surgical evaluation for about that 20% number and check it out with your other professionals, right? There's also some nutritional deficiencies, bowel problems, maybe gallstones, hernias. So there could be infections or blood clots, thinning hair, low blood sugar, GLP-1s, right? There's also a whole slew of possible complications, but what do we think? It won't happen to me. This won't happen to me, but guess what? It happens to somebody, and it happens to a lot of somebodies. And I'll tell you something interesting. This is 25, so 2024, surgical weight loss procedures dropped dramatically across the country because GLP-1s had come on the scene and people wanted to try those because it's obviously less invasive and was proving to be very, very good results. People were losing weight. Now, I would say probably 75% of the people in 2025 that I'm doing pre-surgical evaluations for have tried GLP-1s. There are side effects for some people, and those side effects can include GI issues. Again, just like surgery, there can be nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, maybe constipation, abdominal pain, reflux, heartburn. So a lot of the people that I'm seeing now for a surgical evaluation have already tried GLP-1s, and maybe some of these side effects were so invasive or interrupting their lives to the extent that they had to come off of them. And as all of us know, sometimes they're hard to come by. You can't get a prescription for them. They cost so much money. People can't pay for them out of pocket. So there are a lot of reasons that GLP-1s don't work for some people. those people are now maybe moving into a different way of trying to lose that weight. For some of those people, it's surgical weight loss. And I'm going to talk about what science is recommending regarding those two things in just a minute. There can also be other possible side effects with the GLPs, which can be, again, similar in some ways to the surgery, which is fatigue or hypoglycemia, gallbladder issues, pancreas issues, bowel obstruction, gastroparesis, nothing's moving in there, allergic reactions, facial changes, which also happens with significant weight loss, regardless of how you lose the weight, kidney problems, tumors. So there's all kinds of things. I read something the other day about some vision issues. So there are possible side effects regardless of how you lose weight. Just become aware. Don't think it can't happen to me, because it could. It could. And even on some full liquid diets, or maybe some all plant-based, people might not be getting enough protein. There are possible side effects with everything that we do. I understand. I'm not dissing the GLP-1s, because there are side effects from blood pressure medications and cholesterol medications. That's not the point. The point is, know some information going in that this could be a side effect, and that if you had your heart set on a GLP-1, that maybe your body is not going to tolerate it well, or maybe your pocketbook isn't going to tolerate it very well, or maybe your doctor is not going to be supportive of that for you because of some other health issues you have. So again, expectations. All right, what are some other changes? So there's the physical, but here's where people, I think, are most taken off guard. It's the mental, the psychological, the emotional, and the relationship issues. And that's kind of where I thought I was going to go with this episode, but it took on this life of its own, like I said, because this article that Dr. Susan Mitchell had sent me was about the changes in the relationship between this couple when the wife took GLP-1s and lost quite a bit of weight. And the husband felt left out. The husband felt somewhat envious of her physical changes. The husband didn't understand her setting boundaries for herself where she hadn't before. The husband didn't understand her being much more social with other people than she had been before. This can happen regardless of how a person loses weight. And it saddens me that professionals are not saying to people, you are a whole person. You are a physical being. You are a social being. You are a relationship that would be social, I guess. You are an emotional. You are a psychological. You are a psychiatric. You are a spiritual person. And all of these things change in your life. So be prepared, do some reading about it. There are some things you can do ahead of time to mitigate or keep these issues from becoming so much of a problem, because you're anticipating them, you're talking with your partner, you're working with your friends, you're already talking about these things so that they don't take you in a shocking kind of way. But let's talk about some of these. A lot of people who lose weight, again, by whatever means, think they're going to feel so good about their body after they lose the weight. They think it's like, oh my gosh, finally, I'm going to like my body. Well, extreme weight loss, can result in looking older in the face. It can result in a lot of skin on the neck. It can result of excess skin anywhere on your body. And sometimes people, the body image issues that they hope will go away with weight loss, absolutely don't change. They can become worse in some cases. They're like, I didn't like my body before, but I really hate it now with all of the wrinkles and the shrinkles and the excess skin, and my partner doesn't like it, and all these things. So body image issues can become worse, or they can stay as bad as they were before if they were bad for you. Some people have an improved body image. They definitely report liking how they look and feel better in clothes, but they don't like their actual body sometimes any more than they did before the weight loss. Mental and emotional issues can include mood changes, some instability, like I find myself irritable and I don't understand why. I find myself really fatigued. I don't understand why. Why am I depressed? I just lost 50, 80, 120 pounds. Why am I depressed? This is a big shock to a lot of people. It's like, what's happened? Or I feel exposed, or I feel anxious, or I feel worried. I wanted to lose this weight. I didn't expect any of this. Now, all of a sudden, I'm obsessed with not eating. I'm engaging in some self starvation, or I'm still binging, and I know that's dangerous. So, there can be all of these body and weight and food related issues that don't go away. They may shapeshift, right? They may shift form or take on a different meaning in your life. Some people report a reduced sense of well being because they don't feel protected. And maybe weight was a form of protection. There's a wonderful article called Obesity Problem, Solution, or Both. Because for some people, eating was a solution to dealing with problems that seemed insurmountable. Or if you were a younger person, bringing you comfort. And then you bring that comfort seeking through food into your adult life. And so when you lose weight, or if you've had bariatric surgery, and you can't eat as much, it's like, oh my gosh, now I'm feeling depressed. I miss food and the joy it gave me. And I'm feeling unprotective. And so I feel insecure, reduced well being. Who would have thunk it? It won't happen to me, but it does. Some people say you've changed. So they say you've had a personality change. Well, maybe it's an increase in self esteem, or maybe it's a false increase in self esteem that will wane in time and you'll still be faced with whatever self esteem issues you had before you lost the weight. And that is what I see a lot of times. Sometimes there's increased substance use. It could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be an increase in spending money, it could be an increase in shopping, it could be an increase in hoarding, it could be an increase in online pornography, it could be an increase in all these other behaviors that are not helpful for you. You don't quite understand it. But if you find a weight loss professional who's seen it before, they understand it and they can help you stop the new unhealthy behavior by learning what it's related to, what is underneath those behaviors. We talked about relationship issues, which can be huge after significant weight loss. The partner might be insecure, they might be jealous, there's a lot of strain, or maybe the dieting partner feels frustrated that their person isn't supportive of their goals, or they don't engage with them in these extracurriculars now that they feel like doing these things. So there can be tension in the relationship that can lead to emotional separation or physical separation. So there's a lot of relationship challenges that can surprise people after significant weight loss. Partners could feel threatened, insecure, or feel a shift in that dynamic. Like all of a sudden you're saying no to me, or all of a sudden you're setting boundaries with me, and I just don't understand it. So all of the partners' reactions can be very difficult to navigate through. Your changes within yourself are just as difficult for your partner to navigate on. This focus on appearance is sometimes an issue. So sometimes, people go through this, what a lot of us call the look at me phase. Look at me, look at me, look at how much weight I've lost today, and look at me, especially if you're losing that weight really, really quickly. Because for the first time, and this is a good thing, but it can become a bad thing. It's like, I like seeing myself in pictures. I like being able to post a selfie and feel good about it. Those are great, great things. But if for the next 12 months, you're all about yourself and you're all about taking those selfies, your family might be like, get over yourself. And they might have good reason to be saying so, right? So it's good to have the improved self esteem. It's not good if it becomes a, I am all that kind of a thing, even though there might be a little tiny phase of that, which is okay. So this focus on appearance, this can sometimes overshadow other aspects of the relationship. And this can lead to feelings of neglect by one or the other, or devaluation. It's just about how I look. Who cares about what I'm like as a person? It's just about how I look, or vice versa. The partner might be thinking that. There's a lot of dynamic changes, meaning a shift in the power. So there can be some legitimate improved self confidence, some legitimate increased self esteem, which might shift the power dynamic, because maybe when you were carrying all that extra weight, you didn't feel as good as or as worthy of whatever as your partner, who may not have struggled with their weight. But as a person loses weight, they might start to be like, hey, I feel better about myself. And you know what? I'm going to stand up for myself and say, you know what? I'm not willing to do that just for you to like me. Or I'm not willing to go along with every one of your suggestions just so you'll stay with me. So there are some changes that come about in that way, shift in power. And then there's people develop different goals. So somebody may lose a lot of weight and they're like, you know what? I want to get really active and I want to participate in 5Ks or 10Ks or marathons. And the other person's like, no way, not my thing at all. So that can cause a rift in the relationship. Changes in lifestyle are huge. Hopefully they're maintained, because if they're not, it's going to result in another weight regain. But new healthy eating habits, new exercise habits, new self-care routines, new experiences, not just things that you're, like woohoo, but like, you know, bungee jumping or whatever it is you want to do. But it could be participating in therapy. It could be learning to set healthy boundaries for yourself. And the other people are like, whoa, what's going on with you? I don't recognize you anymore. And then there's communication breakdowns. And here's the deal. I'm going to talk about this, and then I'll talk about how I think the vast majority of this can be settled. Now, a person may say, I support you in your weight loss journey. I support you making these changes. And as you do, because of the dynamics that change in the relationship, they may be like, wait a minute, I'm rethinking this. I don't like who you are as you change. And they may start to sabotage you. It can create somewhat of a hostile environment, making it harder for the person who's working toward achieving a goal to do that, because maybe they back down or they give in or they give up and they're like, I'm not going to cause these waves. No, make the changes for yourself and encourage your partner to come along with you. They said they were going to be supportive and now they're not. Now, you may have other people outside of yourself, as you're losing weight, be critical or start to judge you. It's like now they're criticizing you because you're not eating enough or you're losing too much weight. Or they can say, you're not the same person. Who do you think you are? And they can make these really critical and judgmental comments about you to try to get you back to where you used to be, so they are familiar and comfortable with that dynamic. Also, changes in appearance, changes in lifestyle can lead to unmet emotional needs, unmet physical needs. You don't approach me anymore for physical intimacy, or, you don't ask me to do as many things as you do with other people. My needs aren't being met in this relationship. So there's a lot of things. Or one may be begrudging the other one's weight loss, so neither person feels like they're getting their needs met. Who's telling you about these things before surgery? Most likely nobody. So even if you're very far past your weight loss, this information can still help you, because you still have the opportunity to go, you know what, this is leading me back to unhealthy habits or back to unhealthy weight regain. I don't want that. So stay with me, and then you can go, I think I just started to fall asleep. I lost my train of thought there. So work with each other so that both people in the relationship are able to express their needs and hopefully reciprocate with acknowledgement and willingness to support each other. And here's the biggest problem with that. dun, 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 communication, but I'm going to come back to that in just a minute. And so and I believe it's often because people don't have healthy communication skills, because most people don't learn them. And this is where Dr. Susan Mitchell and I were talking and how this idea came up because, you know, communication is something that most of us just learn from the people around us. And a lot of people don't learn healthy communication skills. They learn to be defensive, they learn to be sarcastic, they learn to be passive aggressive, but a lot of people don't learn to have healthy, open communication that can be direct but loving at the same time. The people who do possess those skills or go out and learn those skills because maybe their relationship has started to struggle and they're like, I don't want this to end, but this isn't going well. Go out and learn some healthy communication skills, get into some therapy to learn some healthy communication skills, because the better your communication skills are, the more you're going to be able to work through these issues in relationships, whether it's the relationship with yourself or the relationship with a significant other, children, parents, siblings. So this communication thing is absolutely essential. So if you follow up with one thing following this podcast episode, get online, go back and listen to the podcast episodes about the different forms of communication, or look them up online or talk to your therapist about them, because communication is the best way to prepare to deal with anything and everything that comes up. So we can't really be supportive of other people unless we know how to communicate and say, what are the ways support looks like to you? And then saying, yes, I can do that with you and for you, or no, I can't. So it's hard to prepare for something ahead of time. It's hard to prepare for being in the work field, even though you've been in college for 4 or 6 or 8 or 12 years and you've been learning these skills. Once you get in the work world, it's a different ballgame, and you can be somewhat prepared, but not completely. Or going into a significant relationship or a marriage, you can kind of know what comes, but not really until you're there. Or parenting, you know kind of what's involved in parenting, but until you go through it, it's really difficult. Same with significant weight loss. If you've never lost a significant amount of weight before, you don't know what to expect necessarily, or what to do to keep that weight off. But you've got to learn. So look ahead. And if you haven't learned that, you've already lost your weight, these areas that you may be struggling in, it's not too late to prepare to do it better. So if you're struggling with maintaining the lifestyle, if you're a bariatric patient, that means eating when you're supposed to and eating the amounts of protein you're supposed to, drinking the water. If you're a GLP-1 person, doing the same. What does it require of me? Regardless of how you lose weight, you have to develop a healthy lifestyle. And a healthy lifestyle is healthy portions, healthy foods the majority of the time, abstaining from any foods you may have an allergy to or are addicted to. Getting engaged in and participating in some kind of exercise, taking your vitamins specific to whether you're on a GLP-1, whether you're taking weight loss surgery, or whether you're on another, especially if you're cutting back on nutritional intake, you need to have the vitamins. So you need to have a dietitian who understands what you're dealing with. So get the help that you need. Seek professional help, whether it's from a therapist, a nutritionist, a exercise person. Seek that and make sure you get your needs met. If the first therapist isn't working for you, go to another one. If the first physician isn't helping you, go to another one. You're responsible to get your needs met. You're going to have to learn to set healthy boundaries, not just with others, but with yourself. Sometimes we have to say no to ourselves. We have to be willing and able to do that. Sometimes our partners are going to have to be willing to make changes with us, to pivot. If this isn't working, what can we try that might? So you've got to go through all kinds of things that are all related to communication, whether it's verbal or nonverbal. So remember, this is not easy. It is not easy to know what to expect. So talk to your primary care doctor, talk to the bariatrician, talk to the PA, talk to the psychologist, the dietitian, whomever it is you're working with in this journey. I want to know what to expect going down the road, physically, emotionally, whatever. Do you have people you can refer me to? Get the help you need, because of course it is your responsibility this day and every day, like I say, but get out there and get prepared. So, what does this all boil down to? It boils down to you can lose weight in whatever way you want, but be prepared that you're going to have to maintain a lifestyle of the Gotta Dooms. If you don't know what the Gotta Dooms are, look it up on the BariAftercare page. The Gotta Dooms are a set of behavior modifications that you've got to do, but it's also a set of psychological and emotional Gotta Dooms, because there's more to maintaining weight loss than what you put in your mouth. All right, so ask your professionals, know the myths, understand that no weight loss method is going to be the means to your happily ever after. Your happily ever after will come primarily through personal growth podcasts, through personal growth information, through personal growth, learning to set boundaries, communicate better, ask for your needs to be met, ask for your partner what their needs are, and ask what it would look like for them to get that need met by you. So learning all of these skills is absolutely critical, which is why I say be in the know. Be in the know of what the common post weight loss issues are and where to get the help for those. So turn to your multidisciplinary team members. And if you don't have a team, create a team and say, I want all of you involved in my care. So that's what I have for today. And what I would encourage you to do is get online, become part of BariAftercare, and listen to the Mythbusters episode, and know that no matter what you do, there are side effects and there are things that, maybe may make that weight loss method not the best option for you, but find what does work for you and realize that in order to maintain weight loss, you've got to have that lifestyle. There's no way around that. But know that relationships change and that it can happen to you. They change physically, socially, spiritually, scientifically to some degree. So listen in to other episodes, share this with people you like, people you don't like, anybody you know who is embarking on a weight loss journey, because it can help millions. And when millions are helped, it's just going to trickle down. There will be more and more and more. And that's what we want. We want to be our best, healthiest selves, and we want that for the people who come after us. All right, friends, remember for sure, we are talking about your health, which is absolutely your responsibility this day and every day. Thanks for spending your time with me, and I will see you next week. And next week, Dr. Joan Brugman is going to be joining me on the podcast, where we talk about behavior and what drives behavior and the needs behind things. So join me for that episode next week. And in the meantime, please share this one with others. Bye.